Picture this, 3 a.m. and I'm stroking my. Picture this, it's 3 a.m. You're up, you're stroking your. You got lotion on your shit. Sorry, wrong video, guys. Nice. Oh. So, all right, I got the right script this time. Picture it's 3 a.m. and you're locked in, you're 14 pages deep in Facebook Marketplace looking for another project car. Despite having already 2 non-running ones, 1 semi-running and 1 mostly running project car sitting in your yard, just like me, all of a sudden you see something. You see it, an E46 M3 for $6 grand. You look at the ad, what's the catch? You think to yourself, it must be a striker, it must be an SMG, it's probably salvage title. You click on the ad, manual transmission, clean title, and then you see it. 214,000 miles. Your brain says no. You conjure up the mental images of rod bearings. You start shopping for used S54 engines, just in case. But your heart says yes. Next thing you know, you're 69 miles from home in some dude's backyard looking at a 25-year-old BMW that simply won't give up on life. You're realizing your M3 dreams, but at what cost? Today, I'm gonna be telling you why you should be buying that high mileage box you've been looking at. But before we do, of course we gotta get into all that YouTube shit. So hit like, hit the subscribe, and high mileage or not, add your car to our vehicle gallery to show it off and help out the world. So in today's video, we're gonna be explaining to you why you should be buying a high mileage car. We know there are plenty of reasons to not buy that high mileage car, and that's gonna be a whole separate video on that, which may or may not be out by the time you see this. First and foremost, the most obvious reason, they're a great deal. Millions of Americans each year buy new cars for that reason. People are convinced that unless their cars are new or nearly new, it's gonna leak more oil than Exxon did in 1989, or be closer to blowing up than a faulty bomb diffusing robot. In some ways, they're right. Higher mileage cars are not without their issues. Chief among them, that mechanical components fail with time. But here's the thing, if you buy right, that's a non-issue. Taking for example, a 2011 BMW M3 and using Manheim's MMR system, which is basically what car dealers should pay at wholesale cost for your car. An M3 with average miles, Manheim considers this to be about 81,000, has an MMR value of 24,800. The average car is driven about 12,000 miles a year, so plugging that into a 13-year-old car, yes, 2011 was 13 years ago, yikes, that gives you 156,000 miles. That's quite a bit for an M3, or anything really. This adjusts the price downwards $8,200 for an average MMR value of $16,600. Now, I don't know about you, but I can do a lot with $8,200. Now, for argument's sake here, the engine is the most expensive failure point on a car like this, right? Well, a used S65 with far fewer miles around is about $6,500 on eBay, meaning in the absolute worst case scenario, you still come out pretty far ahead. Now, here's the even better part. The further back of $16,600 you get the car, and that's definitely possible given these high mileage cars tend to sit on the market for a lot longer than usual, which means you can hit the seller with the absolute dirtiest, nastiest lowball ever conceived. I'm talking about more than half of that price, baby. The more you can dump into it, making this a brand new car. If you plan to keep this car for a while or forever, buy right and you can't lose. You might be saying, if I buy a lower mileage example, I may not have these mechanical issues. And there's another common fallacy that we want to address in this video here. Low mileage cars can break too, and higher mileage cars are generally more well maintained. Think about it like this, using the same M3 as an example. If someone put 80,000 miles on it in 13 years, that's around 6,100 miles a year, which means the car has been sitting more than it's been driven. Now, if you only get one to drive your sports car here and there, you're probably going to drive the hell out of it. I know I would. So their 80,000 miles could be, and often are, super hard miles. Now add into the mix that this car is being driven hard, put away, and left to rot for days, weeks, or in extreme cases, months at a time. You have a recipe for mechanical failures. Sitting can kill components every bit as much as hard driving can kill components on their own. Chief among these being anything made out of rubber, like seals or gaskets. The longer these sit, the more brittle they get, the greater chance of cracking or leaking they also become. While on paper, it's a lot more attractive to buy a car that has been minimally driven, the reality is they often need the same, if not more maintenance than a higher mileage example. Compare this 80,000 mile car to the dude who's using his M3 as a daily with 156,000 miles on the clock. His car gets regular oil changes based on the mileage, not the time. This car gets new tires as they wear instead of sitting on the same tires that they were possibly changed about 5 years ago. Yikes, check the DOT dates. The car regularly sees the dealer or an independent mechanic for services, so it's up to date on its service record. Heck, his mechanic even advised him to address common issues like the vanos and rod bearings, so those are done. When a car is driven, things break and they get fixed. Maintenance gets done, and even more preventative maintenance is often done as the car creeps up in miles. That 156,000 mile car might have more complete and more timely service schedule than a low mileage cream puff. In my experience buying and selling cars, there are some high mileage cars you get into, and if not looking at the cluster, would have no idea what kind of mileage they would have on them. Now, not every high mileage car is like this. There are plenty of shit boxes out there. But if it's me, I'm choosing a car that gets driven 7 days of the week over one that only sees daylight every 6th Wednesday of the 13th month, if you know what I mean. Another factor to consider here is depreciation. Most cool cars don't depreciate all that badly, but definitely have some points in mileage or age where the price absolutely implodes. The last thing you want to do is buy a 30,000 mile cream puff for too much money. You end up putting a bunch of miles on it because you enjoy driving, and then you eventually take a 30% hit on the value when you go to sell it because that car is appealing at 30,000 miles and not so much at 50,000. Buying a higher mileage example means you've bought the absolute bottom of the depreciation curve. This thing really has nowhere to go in terms of depreciation because something I like to call the minimum performance value of the car. This is a completely illogical metric that I made up, but it's always worked for me. The general concept is that there's a rock bottom price for performance cars that will never really dip under because people will always pay at least that to enjoy that specific car. Take for example that same BMW M3 that has never left this chat. There is no other car available on the market with the same 8,000 RPM V8 manual transmission, drivetrain layout, chassis configuration, etc. And so the market will decide what the ultimate bottom price for that car is based not on its usability as its transportation A to B, but how much fun that car is actually to drive. That means the closer you can buy that car to the bottom point of its performance value, the safer your purchase will be. You can buy this car, drive it to your heart's content because who cares about 156,000 miles versus 180,000 miles, then resell it for roughly what you paid for. Last up here, and something unique to us car enthusiasts, we're going to modify the thing. Let's be honest, you say you're not going to and you end up doing it anyway. If you're planning on building your car, like really building it, that means a built motor, new transmission components, suspension, wheels, tires, etc. Then you really only need the chassis as a base. If the chassis is straight, then you're off to the races. Why pay double for an 80,000 mile chassis if that motor is coming out to get rebuilt? Buy the cheaper, higher mileage version, set aside some cash you saved to replace every piece of rubber on that car, bushings, etc., and build it to your heart's content. So there you have it. In my opinion, should you buy a higher mileage car? Well, the short answer is yes. The longer one is, well, it depends on what you're doing with it. But in general, I think as long as you get a proper PPI done, comes back clean, and you're happy with the purchase, hell, go for it. Thanks again for watching. Be sure to drop a comment down below if you've ever bought a higher mileage car. Tell us about it. We would love to hear about your experience. And of course, we'd love to see it in our vehicle gallery. So make sure to upload it there as well. Hit the like button, subscribe, check out our gallery, and all that normal jazz, maybe even on Feet Finder. But we'll see you in the next one.